we do have this natural ability to heal. And the more we get out of our way, the more effectively and efficiently the body can heal itself or do whatever heal is necessary. There may be other things that need to be done. We, may need a doctor to reset a bone that's been broken. So it's not just the body doing everything, but for the body to do what it needs to do in terms of repairing and recovering, the less energy that is going into uncomfortable feelings and ruminating about upsetting things where there's no benefit and just taking on that that stuff that can slow down the healing process. When we're in a state of stress, our immune system is lowered. So there's all kinds of ways that stress and all of the uncomfortable emotions have a stress element to them. I mean, that's how we know that we're feeling something. There's some level of stress. We call it different things depending on the circumstances, but it's some level of stress. And so a certain amount of energy is going into self-protection. And it's like we only have so much energy, so much of a workforce. And it's like, okay, am I going to spend it on recovery or protecting myself from something that may not be a threat? And whatever forces are going towards protection are being taken away from healing.
Welcome to the Mindful Injury Recovery Talks with Dr. Maya Novak. Your host is a mindful healing expert and the author of the book, Heal Beyond Expectations, and this show is here to give you the extra resources you need when healing from any physical trauma. Tune in to today's episode to get inspired and empowered. And before we start, here's a little known fact about Dr. Maya. She has many acquaintances, but saying someone is a friend applies only to a handful of people in her life.
I'm very excited about today's episode because I have a feeling that besides this will be a very helpful episode for you listeners, we are also going to have some fun. Today I'm joined by Yates, who is an emotional freedom techniques expert and is known internationally for his creative and often humorous use of emotional freedom techniques. Brad is the author of the best-selling children's book, The Wizard's Wish, and co-author of the bestseller Freedom at Your Fingertips, and a featured expert in the film The Tapping Solution. He has also been a presenter at a number of events, including Jack Canfield's Breakthrough to Success, has done teleseminars with the Secret stars Bob Dole and Dr. Joe Vitale, and has been heard internationally on a number of internet radio talk shows. Brad also is a very busy bee and has well over 1,000 videos on YouTube that has been viewed over gazillion times, probably over 30 million, but I don't know, Brad will tell you. So Brad, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Maya. It's always great to talk to you.
So how many million views? I think gazillion is kind of good description.
Not quite gazillion. No, it's just recently went over 40 million.
Okay, well, there you have it. So, Brad, yeah, a bit. So we've done a couple of interviews before, and I've always loved how simply but so effectively you explain EFT. But before we go into EFT and everything, I want to start by asking you, and I don't think that I ever asked you this, why did you go and actually how did you decide to go to Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey Clown College? Because I would say that this is a bit unusual decision, but maybe I'm wrong.
Doesn't everybody go to clown college?
Yeah, exactly.
I was in LA trying to make it as an actor, and I heard about the auditions for clown college, and I thought, that sounds fun. Why not? And actually got in. So it was great. I've always enjoyed doing comedic acting, and so I thought this would be beneficial. And it was really an amazing. It was a 2-month process. Spending every day in makeup, throwing pies, juggling, doing slapstick, and all kinds of fun things.
So I'm hearing that you are definitely not regretting your decision.
Not in the least, yeah. No,
No.
no, it was an awesome. Now, to be fair, the idea of clown college was that you signed a contract such that, because the whole purpose of clown college was designed to develop new clowns for the show for Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. So you sign a contract at the beginning saying you're going to go through this training, and if you're selected to go on the road, you go on the road. And which means a year-long contract of living in a 3 by 6 foot train compartment. So
So,
so at the end of the 2 months, and we're about to do the big show under the big top for Kenneth Feld, the owner of Ringling Brothers and Disney on Ice and all kinds of other entertainment things. I was one of the two MCs of the show and a featured performer. So I was out there more than a lot of folks. And the morning of the performance, I said to the director of Clown College, "So here's the deal. I know I, I was a little bit older than some of the other people. I wasn't the oldest in the group, but I was I may have been 30 at that time, and a lot of these kids were like 18 to 24." And I was, living with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And so I'm like, I know I may not be the most outstanding clown, but I know that I stand out in this show, and I don't want to go on the road. And he said, "Well, you signed a contract." So I was apparently I was not quite what they were looking for in terms of the roadshow. So I was not offered a contract. I was rejected,
so
which was
let's
fine.
tap on this.
Yes, because it's exactly what because I didn't want the contract. I had realized at that point I really didn't want the contract. So I manifested not being selected to go on the road with the circus.
Well,
That's my
that's
story, and I'm sticking to it.
that's your story. So, would you say that this experience and these studies are now helping you in your work, in what you do?
Absolutely, and I couldn't necessarily, you know, point out specifics because, as we were saying earlier, I don't have a great memory for specifics, but but I know that it has influenced me in a lot of different ways. Probably more ways than I'm aware of. And even before I had gone to clown college, I had done a certain amount of comedy as an actor, and so there's always been a draw to that and finding the lighter side of things.
Yeah.
So to me, it's when we're doing the tapping, we're often dealing with things that are very upsetting and things we don't want to address. So the humor is the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And, since we are here focusing on injured people and also medical professionals, I mean, in physical trauma, there is a lot of turmoil happening, a lot of emotions going on. So it's not just rainbow and unicorns, and you can be the most positive person, but after a week, 2 month, 2 months, 3 months, sooner or later something comes up for an average person, right? So I do agree with you that it's so important to be able to bring a bit of lightness into dark matters, into dark topics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about these emotions, on average, when we are searching about emotions, they are usually put in two different categories. So one is positive emotions and the other one is negative emotions. Now, I know that you don't like use the word negative. So can you explain why this is and what do you use instead?
Yeah. So I prefer to use the term uncomfortable emotions. But to say that there are good emotions and bad emotions, to put that kind of judgment on it, dismisses the purpose of those emotions because we are designed to have the full spectrum. They're there for a reason. They're there to let us know that there's something that needs to be addressed. So I'll look at a so-called negative emotion like anger and say it's like a smoke detector. And that's there to let us know if there is a fire in the house. So if the smoke detector is going off, either there's a fire that needs to be put out or the batteries need to be changed. There's something that needs to be addressed, and we don't want to ignore it. And we don't want to say, we wouldn't say about a smoke detector, oh, that's a negative device. We shouldn't have that. Yeah. Yeah, it's really good idea to have those in our
It's a
houses.
helpful thing.
It's a very helpful thing that can protect us. Now, what happens is a lot of times when that alarm is going off, when we get into that place of anger, it's not that there's a fire, it's that the batteries need to be changed. But we're so used to responding in an upset way that we don't notice that, and we're aware of the damage that can happen. But that's like if your smoke alarm went off, you said, "Oh, it's so loud. I need to drown out that noise." And I grab pots and pans, and I start banging on them to try to drown out the noise of the alarm. And I'm not dealing with the issue. I'm just trying to overcome it, or I'm sticking cotton in my ears or something like that, trying to avoid it, and not looking for what's going on there. So rather just go and saying, "Oh yes, that noise is just an awful noise. That's why it's such a negative device." No, it's a very helpful device. So all of these emotions are helpful for letting us know, hey, there's something that needs to be addressed, a fire that needs to be put out, a problem that needs to be solved, or there's a misunderstanding going on. But we get into that emotional state and we can't, and the more emotional we get, the less clearly we think. The prefrontal cortex, where our rational thinking is, goes offline and we're just responding, going to fight or flight. So the tapping helps us calm down that emotion so that we can look at it and say, all right, what's going on? The fire alarm's going off. I'm going to walk through the house and I'm going to smell for smoke. I'm going to look for flames. I'm going to see if there's really a problem. And then I'm going to check the batteries and see if that's what's going on. But there's something that needs to be addressed, and I'm allowing myself to think clearly so that I can really find what's going on there.
Yes, I completely agree because very often when we say that something is positive and something is negative, it's either good or it's bad. So we want to be on the good side and we want to avoid as much as possible the bad side, which can lead to that people are actually pushing aside uncomfortable emotions and don't want to deal with them because I don't want to be on the bad side, right? I don't want to be in the negativity. So I'm just gonna play as everything is perfect and I'm gonna pretend that everything is perfect and then everything is gonna be perfect. If only it works that way.
I'm going to break my leg and I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to say, let's talk about my arm. My arm feels feel that muscle right there. Man, that arm feels good. What about your leg? No, 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 we're not going there. No, because what you resist persists.
Yes, this is really great comparison because it's exactly that. So, when we are dealing with something, we do have to go there and sit with that and deal with it, and then it's going to be better. Otherwise, it's going to come back and kick us or bite us or whatever is going to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially when we're talking about injuries. If you break your leg, you don't want to just ignore it and just it'll solve itself.
Yes. Yes.
Walking is going to be very difficult from this point forward.
Well, since we're talking about emotions, what is the connection between emotions and healing? And why is it so important that we do deal with uncomfortable emotions?
Well, our body has a natural healing capacity. I know you know this, and everyone else knows it at some level, but we do have this natural ability to heal. And the more we get out of our way, the more effectively and efficiently the body can heal itself or do whatever heal is necessary. There may be other things that need to be done. We, may need a doctor to reset a bone that's been broken. So it's not just the body doing everything, but for the body to do what it needs to do in terms of repairing and recovering, the more, the less energy that is going into uncomfortable feelings and ruminating about upsetting things where there's no benefit, and just taking on that excuse me, that stuff. that can slow down the healing process. When we're in a state of stress, our immune system is lowered. So there's all kinds of ways that stress and all of the uncomfortable emotions have a stress element to them. I mean, that's how we know that we're feeling something. There's some level of stress. We call it different things depending on the circumstances, but it's some level of stress. And so a certain amount of energy is going into self protection. And it's like we only have so much energy, so much of a workforce. And it's like, okay, am I going to spend it on recovery or protecting myself from something that may not be a threat? And whatever forces are going towards protection are being taken away from healing.
And it's very, I think it's very important to also talk about that when and where we are feeling threatened, it doesn't mean that there is actually a physical threat happening. We can be in a very positive environment. However, what is happening internally with us can be a huge threat. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, 99% of the time, it's most of the times that we are in a stress experience and feeling threatened. There probably isn't an actual physical threat. So there's this little part of the brain called the amygdala that responds to threat, looks for threat, and when a threat is perceived, puts us into fight or flight. It says, warning, we're in danger. We need to either run faster, fight harder, or freeze and play dead. And all of this thinking about different options and strategies, yeah, we don't have time for that. We need all of the resources going into self-protection mode. And that was a really useful development in the brain hundreds of thousands of years ago when we were in life-threatening situations on a daily basis. Most of us don't live in life-threatening situations on a daily basis now. And so the things that are putting us into fight or flight, because the amygdala can't tell the difference. So we're responding to somebody, says something that we misunderstand, and we take offense, and there's not a fire. It's just batteries need to be changed, but
Mm-hmm.
the alarm is still going off.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that most of the time, for most of us, the stress that we experience, the fear that we feel, is based on a misunderstanding, and it's all going on inside as opposed to something outside being threatening.
Yes. So these uncomfortable emotions, you often say that they are not only manifested in the body, but also in the mind. So is this what you're talking about, or can you go a bit deeper into this topic?
Yeah. So it's the idea that it's not what happens, it's our thoughts about what happens,
So it's our perception.
our perception. And it's not that we're bad or stupid. It's the programming we have. We have been taught to think certain things about everything. And a lot of what we've been taught ain't necessarily so. We've been taught to think, this is good, this is bad. As Hamlet said, nothing's good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at what is it about this that I think is bad, and based on that perception, based on that old programming about what's good or what's bad, what's threatening, what's not, then I experience what I call an emotion. It's that feeling, and because emotions aren't something that we just think. We feel them in the body, but they are totally connected with our thoughts. We don't have an emotion about something if we're not having a thought at some level about it. If we're all of the uncomfortable emotions have fear underneath them, anger, sadness, all of these uncomfortable feelings. There's a level of fear underneath, and so something in our brains is saying, "I am in danger," and that's why I should feel this way and have this experience.
So would you say that the thought is first and then the feeling comes, or emotion, or is emotions and feelings happening first and then thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and there are a lot of I've seen people argue one way or the other. We are. It seems to me that it's that the emotion is a response to a particular thought, but we are not aware of the thought, so we are more likely to be aware of the emotion before that. If we're walking along the street and we see a dog and we have a panic attack, it's like, oh, I have this feeling, and I may not be consciously aware of it, but it's because I have programming in my mind saying that dogs are threatening to me because I was attacked by a dog as a child or whatever it is.
Or your mom was afraid of a dog and then you accepted this, that dogs are
Absolutely.
dangerous.
Absolutely. It's either our experience or what we have picked up from other people. But dogs don't cause that emotion because someone else can be walking along and go, oh, look at the dog. And they feel this wonderful sense of joy seeing that dog. So dogs don't create fear. It's our thoughts about dogs that create fear. But we aren't likely to go, oh, there's a dog. That's right. Mom was afraid of dogs. Oh, okay. Now I feel afraid. So, and it's so quick that, is it happening simultaneously? Is there an emotion first and then the thought happens? Is there a thought first? To me, it's like, well, I'm not sure that really matters. It's chicken and the egg, which is first. I don't know. All I'm aware of is I have this feeling, and I'm unlikely to change the thought because part of me says my thoughts have gotten me this far. What I believe about dogs and injuries and money and people and all of this, my operating manual has gotten me this far. And it may not be perfect. My life might be crap, but hey, it's mine. I'm familiar with it. I know how it works. And so I'm not likely to try to change that. So if I try to change my mind, I have a stress response. The idea of being comfortable around dogs might really upset me because now it's like, well, that changes everything in my life. I've spent my whole life being afraid of dogs and believing that they're not safe. And I can't imagine what life would be like other than that. I might start dating somebody who has a dog and I'd have a dog in the house all the time. Yeah, I can't have that. All kinds of thoughts might be going on. So it's allowing ourselves to deal with that stress. So that's why we do the tapping, is to calm down the stress response and that automatic fear response. And then we can look at it and go, okay, let's look at this fear of dogs. Why do I think that it's necessary? Why did mom think it was necessary? What happened to her? Maybe one dog out of the millions of dogs that she ever saw bit her or barked at her or whatever it might have been. And so allowing yourself to then look at that and go, okay, I'm responding out of proportion to the threat. And then we can start to change our response.
Yes, and one thing that you said, and the thing that was popping into my mind was, well, then we have to deal with identity and the change of identity, and very often for people that's uncomfortable, because who am I without this fear? Who am I without this thought? Who am I without this anxiety? So a lot of the times, and especially when it comes, for example, healing physical trauma, if this is chronic or if this has been happening for months or for years, it's very difficult for people to actually realize who are they without this.
Who am I without this injury? Who am I without this physical limitation? Again, it's that thing that's comfortable. And even if it feels crappy,
Yeah,
it's
even if
familiar.
it feels crappy, it's familiar. Exactly.
Yeah. I've got this bum knee. Oh yeah, this bum knee. And everybody knows me as this guy who's got the bum knee. And if I don't have that bum knee, then who am I? It's been something to talk about. It's been something that's gotten me out of certain things I might not want to do. There's all kinds of it. I've used as an excuse for not achieving certain levels of success or whatever it might be. Take that away, and I have to rethink so many different things. There are expectations of me, and so that feels very threatening. Just talking about it. If everyone took their pulse right now, even just my talking about it like that, people are having a response like, "Oh yeah."
I know they are, because it's true. I mean, all of these things that you said, it's exactly what people are going through, because it's comfortable even if it sucks. Sorry to use this word.
Absolutely. We call it our comfort zone, even though it's like there's nothing comfortable about it. It's like broken glass. There's no comfort here. Yes, but it's my broken glass. I've got all little indentations around my body where the shards fit so that I manage it. So it's acknowledging that and saying, all right, and there's a part of me that feels very uncomfortable. And I may experience that in different ways. I may feel sadness about the past. I may feel anger about being asked to make changes. All kinds of different fear going on about how things will be different if I'm not the person that I think I am. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get up in the morning, look in the bathroom mirror. I'm going to be calling 911 saying there's a stranger in my house. It's like, I don't know how to deal with that. So I will find ways to hang on to things. I will find ways to hang on to limitations. And it may be even in terms of recovering from an injury of, I don't want to heal too fast because there may be secondary gain. There may be a certain level of sympathy that I'm getting, people taking care of me. Uh, there's all kinds of different reasons why we might slow down the healing process
Mm-hmm.
because we're getting some kind of benefit that consciously we would say, oh, that's nonsense. Why on earth would I want that? I would never. Me, no. I want to heal right away. But based on our programming, and I like to say that if we could look at any decision that we're making or any decision that we've made in the past, and if we could open the brain and look at all the neural pathways and all of the experiences leading up to that moment, you would look at it, and even if you think it's the worst thing you've ever done, if you could analyze all of the things leading up to it, you'd go, oh, yeah, I see why I did that. I see why I made that choice
Yes.
in that moment, based on everything I've experienced, all of my personal experiences, all the things I've picked up from other people, all the information and misinformation, that seemed like the only viable option. And
Yes.
now I can change my mind about things and I can make different choices moving forward. But I did the best I could at that time. Even in terms of healing, it's like, oh, I should have healed faster. I should have done better with my physical therapy. I should have been more careful with my nutrition. I should have stayed away from certain things. It's like, okay, but again, if you went back and looked at everything leading up to that, you would see why either you just were acting out of habit, or there may even be a part of you that was saying, yes, this will slow down my healing, and that feels important to me at this point.
Yes. And also, there is so more than 2 decades ago, my first yoga teacher, I remember, and this stayed with me till this day. He said so beautifully in regards to, well, if you fall out of asana or, whatever happens, you just got another opportunity to change, to try again. So it doesn't matter what was happening in the past and you should or shouldn't or whatever. Right now, this moment matters. So here is where we can create this change.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about EFT. Now, EFT, emotional freedom technique, is already well known. And, if we had a conversation like 10 years ago, I would ask you, so what is EFT? And can you talk, what this is? But I want to go from a different perspective. And how about if we try with meridians, with energy meridians, and how this is connected to EFT?
So, for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they've said there's a flow of energy through the body, this life force called qi, and it's flowing through these pathways that are called meridians. Just like our veins and arteries is the pathways for blood. So meridians are these channels of energy through our body, and when we have this natural flow of energy, we experience our natural state of health and well-being, physically and emotionally. And when this energy gets damaged or blocked in some way, that's when we experience this discomfort. So in traditional Chinese medicine, they would stick needles in these key points to stimulate that healthy flow of energy. And in EFT, we're just tapping with our fingertips to likewise stimulate that healthy flow of energy to clear out those blockages.
So it's actually needless acupuncture.
Yep.
Yeah,
Emotional acupuncture without the needles.
without
And a
the
lot of people are
needles.
like, oh, yeah, sign me up. No needles.
Well, I had a few sessions of acupuncture in my life, and it really depends on the issue that you are experiencing. They are putting needles in different parts of the body. Now, with EFT, we are usually tapping on the upper body, so head and chest. But would EFT work as well if we tapped, I don't know, on lower legs and just talk feelings through? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There are meridian points all over the body. If you ever looked at a map, they have like little models or pictures that show all the points and have the meridian lines drawn. And yeah, they're all over the body, and there are different tapping modalities that use more points. There's I've seen a lot of people use the insides of the knees, the insides of the ankles. Absolutely, there are points all over the place. It's a little less convenient to be tapping on the lower legs than it is to be tapping around the face. So when Dr. Roger Callahan, who first developed thought field therapy, which was the precursor to emotional freedom techniques, he was experimenting with different meridian points, these points on these different major meridians, and found that these were points that were very beneficial. Are they the most beneficial? Are there other points that could be as beneficial? Yeah, probably. But it's simple enough that why it's not necessary to go and looking. Okay, well, I really should, tap somewhere else on the body. And some people may feel drawn to that, and that's fine.
So EFT is clearing these emotional blockages, if you will. Um, does it also work in regards to reprocessing or reprogramming the brain, the mind, or is just clearing the energy?
And there may be different people who have different philosophies about this. To my mind, it creates the opening to change our mind. Most of us have changed our minds about something at some point, whether we decided that, you know, coffee was bad for us, and then we read a report that said, actually drinking some coffee, a cup of coffee in the morning might have certain health benefits. And so we may change our mind about that. And it used to be I was this totally anti-caffeine person, and now I'm okay with it, or anything. People who've changed their minds about dogs. Oh, I used to be afraid of dogs, and now I like dogs. So there are things where we changed our mind. So we have that capacity to do that. So the question is, what might I benefit from in terms of shifting my thought process that I'm resisting? And when I have that resistance, that's that stress response, that fear response. It's like I didn't have a huge investment in coffee, no coffee. So the idea of changing my mind about it wasn't a big deal. I might have other things I have more of an investment in, and it feels more threatening to change. And so I'm not as likely to, even if I have facts in front of me, I might question those facts. You know, we see this all the time in society.
Yes.
People, you know, and so it's not that people are bad or stupid; it's that we have a connection or an investment in believing a certain thing, even if there's plenty of evidence to say that it's false, or in not believing something, even though there's plenty of evidence to say that it's true. And so the question is, why is that resistance there? What is the fear? What is the threat? So the tapping helps us calm ourselves down and clear that feeling of threat so that we can look at it and go, oh, this does make more sense. This is a much more sensible way of looking at things. This is much more likely to get me the benefit that I want. So we're creating the safety to change our minds.
Good. So, how about if we do some hands on work? What about if we tap on something? What do you suggest? What do you think it would be the most beneficial? I think that the best would be like the whole rainbow, right? Because injured people struggle with so many things, with so many emotions. But let's choose rainbow, or should we focus on one thing?
So, well, let's continue on with this idea about changing our mind. So let's do a round on changing our mind, and so we'll set it up, and we'll leave it open for whatever color of the rainbow people are working on, they can decide for themselves. But So everyone, go ahead and close your eyes.
Can we just for those who potentially, there might be some listeners who don't know on which parts of the body we're going to be tapping, can you quickly just tell
Yeah.
us where we're going to be tapping and what we're going to be doing?
Yes. Because sadly, EFT is not quite as well known as it should be. I hate to shoot on anyone, but it's so beneficial and it's so simple. It ought to be more widely used. But for those of you who have not had the benefit of learning about it yet, what we're going to be doing is tapping with the fingertips of our index and middle finger. And the meridians run up and down both sides of the body. So you could tap with both hands or you could switch back and forth, whatever feels comfortable. Just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and use my right hand. And we're going to start by tapping on the side of the opposite hand. And this is where we do the setup. So we look at whatever might be blocking us. So whatever discomfort we might be feeling, whether it's a physical discomfort or an emotional discomfort. So let's just say we're experiencing stress. And that's all I can label it as. I'm feeling stress, rated on a scale of 0 to 10. Oh, it's 8. What is the physical experience of it? I get this tension in my shoulders. Okay, now we know we've identified what's bothering us, what's blocking our sense of peace and well-being. So we'd say, even though I feel this stress, I choose to love and accept myself. We'd say that 3 times. And then we'd go through each of these points, and we're going to tap each of these points between 5 and 10 times. Depending on the wording that we might be using, it might be longer than that. So if I say this stress, I can easily tap between 5 and 10 times. If I say all this stress about this event that's coming up next week and I'm not sure I'm going to be ready for it, we might be tapping 20 times. It's okay. It's not like the body says, "Oh, you went over 10 times, no more healing." It's just a general guideline. So we'll mention whatever the issue is. This stress, that's right there at the beginning of the eyebrow. The next point is right here at the corner of the eye. All this stress, right under the middle of your eye, all this stress, under your nose, all this stress, right under your lower lip, just above the chin, all this stress. Now, right here where your collarbones just about come together, there's a little bit of a U shape at the base of your throat. You can use all of your fingertips or even make a fist and tap that area. All this stress. About 4 inches below your armpit. So it's right about bra strap level. And I'm sure even the guys can figure out where that is. Tap with all of your fingertips, all this stress. And finally, the top of your head. So a lot of the meridians cross over right there. And using all of your fingers, just tapping around the crown of your head. All this stress. And you take a deep breath. And then you check in again and say, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much stress do I feel now? How tight are my shoulders now? And if it was an 8 before, there are times where it'll go from an 8 to a 0 like that. More often, it takes longer. And so it may go from an 8 to a 4. It may go from an 8 to a 7.75. And if we've been holding this tension in our shoulders, even a drop from 8 to 7.75 is some welcome relief. It's all good. And also what often happens is as we're tapping, it's like peeling the layers of the onion, and we might get some insights into it. So I might be saying, all this stress. Oh, I know what this is about. That thing that happened when I was 15, and I never got over that. And now I can start clearing something I've been holding in my body for decades, and something that might contribute to that bum knee. Oh yeah, I first got a bum knee when I was 15, and my friend did this thing and I got hurt, and I decided that, I can't trust my friends, and my bum knee reminds me about being careful around other people. And so all kinds of awarenesses can start to happen. So just allow yourself to be aware of that. But that's the process. So in the basic version of EFT, we just identify the issue, this stress, this anger at Bob for that stupid thing he did yesterday, whatever it might be. And then we repeat the issue on each of the points. Now we're going to play around with it a little bit more in this.
Yes. So sorry, I have a follow-up question.
Absolutely.
So in regards to if someone is right now thinking, or potentially what you just shared, maybe they're saying to themselves, oh, okay, so I don't have to know exactly what I'm going to be tapping on, because I just have to start somewhere. And then through the process, I might actually uncover what is beneath this. Am I understanding this correctly?
Right. Tapping is most effective when we're very specific about what's bothering us, but very often we're not aware of the specifics because part of this is trying to block us from knowing the specifics. So as we tap and we calm down the stress response, we're more likely to give ourselves permission to have insight into what's really going on. And then we can, it's like the fire alarm is going off and we're just like running around in a panic. And as we allow ourselves to calm down, it's like, oh, it's the fire alarm in the second bedroom. Okay, now I can go and check that. Oh, there's nothing in here. Now I can go and check if the battery is dead. So it just gives us that permission to have greater awareness of what might be going on. But we don't, if the fire alarm's going off, we don't sit there and go, okay, I can't do anything until I know exactly where that's happening. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to start from where I'm at with whatever information I might have.
This is a really good point, because a lot of times we get overwhelmed by everything that is happening. So instead of doing something, we don't do anything because we are so overwhelmed.
Yep. And the great thing is you don't even need to come up with words. If you're in a state of stress, if you're in some sort of emotional distress, just tapping silently will help to calm down the nervous system so that we'll get more awareness. And even if don't get clarity, it's like, still not sure what's bothering me, but I feel more calm.
Mhm.
So don't worry about the words. It's not like, well, until I know the exact setup phrase, I can't tap. No, you can just start tapping through the points. You can just tap one particular point. There are times that I'll just feel drawn to tapping one particular point and just go from there.
Why I'm laughing right now is because many years ago, that was exactly me. Like, I cannot do it because I don't know the exact words. And how many times do I have to then say it? And is there a particular special, template that I need to use? So, okay, I don't know any of this. So, okay, I'm not going to use it. That's exactly how I was.
And it's brilliant because there is a part of us that resists moving forward. And so we tell ourselves, oh, well, until I know exactly how it works and why it works and how to do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it because then I get to stay safely in my comfort zone. It's brilliant. But let's knock that off.
Okay. Now we are ready.
So, can I move ahead now?
Yeah.
No, I'm
Please
kidding because
do.
these are great questions. I totally appreciate it because I go through it sometimes and I sometimes forget to bring up certain points, and these are all great questions. So huge value. So everyone, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and hold it, and let it go. Now just allowing yourself to be present, allowing yourself to breathe comfortably, and just see what's going on. And ask yourself where you might be feeling some discomfort. And as much as possible, identify what you might be uncomfortable about. It may be an emotional discomfort, it may be a physical discomfort from some injury. And even with any physical discomfort that you have, allow yourself to be aware of any emotional discomfort you might have about that. You may be angry that you have this injury. You may be sad about what you think it's costing you. You may be beating yourself up about how you got the injury. Just allow yourself to be aware of any discomfort that's coming up around that. And now, as much as possible, allow yourself to be aware of the thought behind that. What beliefs are telling you that you should feel this discomfort? Beyond actual physical discomfort, but there are plenty of doctors that will say that a large percentage of the physical discomfort that we experience is actually caused by stress and other emotional discomfort. So allow yourself to be aware of what thoughts might be there behind that. And give yourself permission to consider changing your mind about that. I feel this discomfort because I think this, but if I changed my mind about that, ... And notice where there might be resistance around that. Notice what discomfort you might feel about the idea of changing your mind. What would be a more empowering thought? Just allowing yourself to be aware of what's going on in there. Take a deep breath. Open your eyes and just tap where I tap and repeat back what I say. Even though I'm resisting changing my mind.
Should I repeat or should I just keep quiet so that people can repeat right now?
Either way. So for
I'm
everyone
gonna
else,
keep it quiet.
okay, and that's fine, and that's often how it's done in an interview. But for everybody else, everyone watching at home, go ahead and say it out loud, because when we say it out loud, we tend to be more emotionally engaged, and it tends to make the process more effective. Not that it's not effective silently, but it just tends to be more effective when we're more emotionally engaged. So, even though I'm resisting changing my mind, I choose to love and accept myself. Even though I'm resisting changing my mind, I choose to love and honor myself. Even though I'm resisting changing my mind, part of me might say, resistance has nothing to do with it. I cannot change my mind. What I believe is correct and factual, and I need to stay stuck. And even though I might be resisting changing my mind, I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. And maybe anyone else who has convinced me about how things are. All this resistance to changing my mind. All of this resistance to changing my mind. Because there are situations in my life and things that I'm feeling, physically and emotionally, that are either caused by or worsened by what I'm thinking. And part of me says, well, that's too bad, because I have to think this. Especially if I've been thinking it for all my life. These beliefs are part of my identity. So I might have some circumstance that part of me would like to change, but it would require me changing my mind about things. And so I keep myself stuck. To defend or justify the past. For all kinds of different reasons. And it may just be part of my identity. And I'm too old to change. Or if I allow myself to change my mind, that means I used to be stupid. If I think something new now, doesn't that mean my thoughts were wrong in the past? And that's a blow to my ego. Part of me says that's an injury I couldn't recover from. I'd rather experience a physical injury than an injury to my ego. And I choose to change my mind about that. I have been doing the best I could based on my old programming, based on old misunderstandings, mine or someone else's. And I'm allowing myself the benefits of changing my mind, clearing this fear of change. Even if change means healing, even if that positive change means feeling better in body, mind, and spirit, part of me says, yeah, but it's still change. And change sucks. Even an objectively positive change still feels threatening to part of me. So I love and appreciate those parts of me that have refused to change my mind about certain things. Even when that keeps me in either physical or emotional discomfort. Even when that keeps me in discomfort in other areas of my life. My thoughts and beliefs might be keeping me in financial discomfort or relationship discomfort. Part of me believes that's keeping me safe. So I choose to love and appreciate those parts of me. And I'm creating the opening to potentially see things differently. Because there are other people out there thinking different thoughts and enjoying faster recoveries and all kinds of good things that I'm not experiencing. I don't need to defend the past. I'm just allowing myself to change my mind, wherever it might be beneficial to me. Giving myself the freedom to make things better and better in body, mind, and spirit. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes, go inside, and see what's going on in there. Just allowing yourself to see where you might have some more freedom to think in slightly different ways. And just notice how your body feels as well. Hopefully your body feels more relaxed and much more open to things being better and better. Take a deep breath, open your eyes.
Beautiful, Brett. I do feel really, really calm right now. So, and I want to just say that for those listeners who are using only audio, so every time you paused, you change the point.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so they
Went through
can
that
go
same
back.
sequence of points, but yeah, starting with the eyebrow right after the side of the hand. Yeah, starting with the eyebrow. And if you are listening to the audio, don't worry if you're not on the same point. Don't be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I hope I'm tapping the same point that they're tapping right now." It's okay. It's not so exact that you won't get benefit if you're not on the same point.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said before we started. Even if you are tapping potentially just on one point, you are
Yes,
doing more than if you are not tapping on any point.
exactly.
Yes. So, are these results what we just experienced right now and tapping? Are these results permanent, Or do we have to deal with the same thing over and over and over again?
If you do a really good workout and strengthen your body, is that permanent?
Of course, you don't do this kind of workouts, I mean, one time and that's it.
To me, tapping is energy hygiene. We want to do it ideally on a daily basis, just like physical hygiene. Brushing your teeth, bathing. Don't wait until your teeth are full of green gunk and then think, oh, yeah, now I should brush my teeth. We do it on a daily basis, whether we can see it's necessary or not. Same with energy hygiene. And in that case, as we do so, we lower our natural set point of stress because most of us are walking around with ambient levels of stress, and most of us are walking around with a device that constantly tells us, here's something to be worried about. So we're carrying a certain amount of stress. So tapping on a regular basis allows us to lower that level, and we respond much better to situations. Even physically, we're much less likely to get injured because our body is more relaxed.
So let me ask you this. Should these, well, should, which shoots, we know how they are, but is it a good idea then to tap first thing in the morning, or do we tap anytime during the day or when something comes up? What is your suggestion in regards to that?
And it's like, when is the best time to take a shower? When is the best time to brush your teeth? There are different times. So most of us brush our teeth in the morning, but then if we have then, we're eating something and we're about to go and meet up with somebody, we might brush our teeth again. So I start my day first thing with some tapping, and that's just to have my energy be as clear as possible. It's not just when something's upsetting. It's not like, oh, I wake up grumpy every morning and that's why I tap first thing in the morning. There's not some issue, even though I woke up with this issue. I just tap to be as clear as possible, to feel as good as possible. Just like brushing teeth or taking a shower. I may not be aware of what I'm cleaning. I just want to be as clean as possible. And I want to be as energetically as possible. And so you might find yourself doing it a couple of times throughout the day. I like to start the day with that, but a lot of people will end their day with it. Sometimes I'll end the day with some tapping and then throughout the day, if something comes up, whether there's something upsetting, it's like, ooh, that feels uncomfortable, and do some tapping. And then maybe times where it's just like, I'm just going to get even more clear. I'm just going to, there's nothing bothering me, but I want to see what's possible if I really let myself be even more free.
Yeah, this is a really good advice. So it's not about, okay, let me just wait until there is a huge fire happening and then quickly let's tap so that there is no fire anymore, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, and so using that the analogy of the smoke detector, it's like, do I only make sure that I minimize fire hazards when the smoke detector goes off, when the fire alarm goes off? It's like, oh, the fire alarm's not going off, so I'm just going to leave some paper sitting here by the stove while I'm boiling water, and
Because I have
you
to
know,
create a problem for myself. So,
yeah,
I'm a resourceful human being.
we make good choices even before the fear response.
Yes, yes. So, Brett, what is your number one advice that you would give someone who is recovering from any kind of physical trauma?
What is the thing that I would recommend to people? It's the same thing I recommend to anybody for anything. It's do some tapping. Just to allow yourself to, you know, down regulating stress creates a greater environment for the body to heal, but it also helps us to process whatever emotions might be getting in the way of the healing process.
Yes, and there is so many things that we can tap on. I mean, we went into changing the mind, but there are so many emotions, feelings that we can tap on. So, pick and choose. There is a
Yep.
lot. Yes.
Yep. No shortage of things to process.
No, that's a human life. Exactly. Every day
Exactly.
something new.
Exactly.
So, the last question that I have for you is a fun question. for you as well as for me, as for listeners who are listening to this. So let me ask you, if you were on a desert island with an injury and you could bring only one thing to help you heal amazingly well, what would that be and why?
Spoiler alert, we talked about this earlier, and I'm actually gonna give the same answer that I gave before, because I was half jokingly, I said to you earlier, painkillers. And you see, now it would sort of depend on what the injury was. So, with certain injuries, there may be certain things that I would need to deal with that. I might need crutches to help me walk around if I have a broken leg or something like that. So obviously, there are a lot of people who use tapping to mitigate pain, because as we clear stress, we lower pain. Depending on the injury, I might like to have some chemical intervention, because the body already has what it needs to heal. So I might like to have some painkiller just to make me more comfortable in the process of healing, depending on how long that healing takes place.
Yes. Would you agree that potentially this is definitely more beneficial in the acute state? But if we are talking about something chronically, there can be, I mean, we have a really huge crisis with,
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. And this is not me writing a prescription for you all to get on OxyContin, by any means.
yeah,
This is dealing with acute pain. If I have an injury where there's acute pain, it's like I would like to be more comfortable in the process of healing. When it's a more chronic thing, and it's like, okay, now there are definitely some lifestyle changes I may need to make. But in the moment of an injury and there's intense pain, the lifestyle change isn't going to make that isn't going to do something about that in the moment. So yes, I'm talking about dealing with that acute pain in that moment. But everything else to bring with me is already there.
hmm,
It's
you have your
look,
fingers.
you have it's right there at your fingertips, and inside your body. And so it's like I have with me what it takes to change my mind in whatever ways I might need to, in order to change certain behavior or to allow certain types of healing to take place. Giving myself permission to change my identity from somebody who's got a bum knee or whatever the issue might be. It could be all kinds of beliefs about ourselves. I have a bum knee. I'm no good at money. I'm not good at relationships, whatever it might be in our lives. It's like, okay, I have within me what it takes to change that.
Beautiful. Brad, where can people find more about you?
Thank you. They can find me at tapwithbrad.com. And also it's at tapwithbrad on social media as well.
And YouTube with more than 1,000 videos. So there is a lot of tapping happening on that site as well.
Whatever's coming up for you, there's a tap for that.
Brad, I so enjoyed our conversation, and I know that listeners were enjoying this as well, and that they're gonna go back and re-listen the tapping session over and over again. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and guiding us through.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share this work, and thank you for all the great work you do. And it's great seeing you again.
So this was Brad Yates. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review so we can reach even more people who should be hearing these conversations. And also hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're using to tune in. Now, that being said, if you or someone close to you is currently injured or recovering from an injury, make sure you check out my book, Heal Beyond Expectations. It's really the most complete step-by-step manual on how to apply my mindful injury recovery method. And it's also a memoir of my own experience, both with my own injuries and trauma and helping other people overcome theirs.
You can find out more about it on healbeyondexpectations.com or directly on Amazon if you search for Heal Beyond Expectations. Of course, if you want to go even deeper, you can also find out more about the various self-paced programs on my main website, mayanovak.com, as well as coaching options if you prefer a more personalized approach and would like to work with me one-on-one.